What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another training voiceover. Today we have a leg day. Specifically, this is my legs B leg day from yesterday. I actually did this yesterday, Sunday, August 13th, right at around 12 weeks out from the first show that I have my eyes set on this competitive season. So, as usual, we're going to talk a little bit about the programming today, but I also have a general theme that I kind of want to talk about, and that is working around injury. To start off with things here, you guys will notice that I'm only doing one set of the calf raise. I will loop back to that, but I want to give some context here quickly. So, for those of you guys who kind of closely follow my Instagram or TikTok content, you may be familiar with the fact that I kind of have been dealing with a knee injury somewhat. The last leg day that I did at the time of this recording, except for this one, was my pendulum squat leg day, and I went to get on the pendulum squat, and I could tell from rep 1 on a completely empty pendulum squat with no weight on it that my knee was not cooperating, and that was something that was really kind of bothering me quite a bit. Obviously physically, but mentally as well. I mean, I've kind of talked about this in my prep vlogs and stuff before, but injuries are such like a mental hurdle and challenge to overcome, especially if you're somebody like me or somebody like us. You know, if you're watching my channel, I would assume that you're like me, which means that almost our entire mood is placed around our training session and kind of how our training session went for the day. So when you're dealing with something that can impact that negatively and kind of hold you back, that can be very mentally stressful, at least for me in particular. And especially being in a contest prep and having worked so hard to kind of get to this point where I'm feeling good about how I'm looking heading into this show, I was really kind of worried about the knee injury and whether or not that would impact me on this particular leg day. So just to kind of circle back to the calf raise, I believe that the knee injury is being caused by a reoccurring issue that I have in my ankles, particularly my right ankle. So again, I've kind of mentioned this a lot in a lot of my content on other social media platforms, but I have horrible ankles, in particular my right one. I played football, American football, for those listening. I played American football for 7 years, 8 years. And I was fortunate enough to never have any major injuries, never any like tears or dislocations or anything like that. But the amount of times that I like rolled and sprained my ankles is just literally beyond measure. And in particular, I went to a very small school. And we had enough kids to field a team, but most traditional American football teams have enough people on the team to where players will play either offense or defense. They won't play both. But when you go to a small school and there's 11 people on the field and there's 15 kids on the team, you spend a lot of time playing both ways. So even though, I played 7 years, 8 years, I feel like I almost got like double the repetitions of that time, and obviously I don't think it's that serious, but the point that I'm trying to make is that I have some horrible ankles, in particular my right one. And coincidentally, when you take a look at all of my injuries, so, when you look at my list of lower body injuries that I've dealt with over the course of the past couple of years, right now it's the right knee. Previously, it was the right adductor, which is reoccurring. I've been dealing with that for super long. Right hip. So they're all on the right-hand side. And I don't think that that's a coincidence, particularly considering the fact that my right foot and my right ankle is really messed up. So basically, this long-winded explanation, looping back to the calf raise, I'm reducing the amount of calf work that I'm doing going forward, just literally to minimize the amount of stress that I'm placing on the area. Obviously, I don't think that I'm in a position where I need to completely remove training the area, and that's another thing for working around injuries, is if you can work around it pain-free, then that would be ideal. So I don't think that skipping my calf training is necessary, but I do think that it's probably in my best interest to not do any amount of excessive and unnecessary work through the ankle joint. So I'm just going to drop the calf raises just to one set for the foreseeable future. If the injury clears up, I may go back to two, but right now the goal is really just to kind of drop to one. And on top of that, you may have noticed that I reset the weight. So the previous weight that I was working with was 3 plates per side, and then I had like a 10 on each side, and then a 2.5 or something like that. I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but I just decided to scrap that and drop down to 3 plates even. Maybe a 20-pound weight decrease total, 25-pound weight decrease total, but just enough to where I could really, really focus on the form. I did that whole set with no music or anything playing, very calm, very focused on what I was doing. And that is going to be the new starting point. I'm going to try and progress that logbook number from now and just kind of reset the weight. So after getting the calf raise stuff done, we get into the abs. So I've been training the shit out of my abs lately. Again, I've kind of mentioned that I feel like in every one of my latest training videos is the ab work. The past 2 training videos that I've shown have been the cable crunch as the ab exercise, but this is the decline crunch. And as I mentioned in last week's video, that I kind of stagger back and forth each week or each session between these two. So every time that I train my abs, I will go back and forth between decline crunch, decline rope. I really feel like these are the 2 most effective exercises for me, at least, and I really don't see any need to do anything else. From here, we get into the adductor, and on this particular leg session, you'll notice that I do a 3-count pause on the first set of the adductor. On my legs A session, I also do 2 sets, but they're just what I would consider to be a traditional tempo, where I hit a peak contraction, and it's noticeable, but it's not as exaggerated as what you're seeing here. You guys will notice that the peak contraction on every single one of these reps is particularly drug out. So I'm literally counting as I hit peak contraction, 1, 2, 3, and that's how long that I'm holding before I go into the eccentric. If you guys have seen my legs A session, you'll know that I do this very same setup with the leg extension, where my first set I use a 3-count pause, and then my second set is more of a traditional rep tempo. So that is exactly what we're doing here. That's kind of how I differentiate the adductors between legs A and legs B. I do 2 sets on both days, but one day I'll do paused reps for the first set, and then the other day I'll do 2 traditional sets. I shouldn't have to mention this, but obviously I fast forwarded that clip there. This was a 17 rep set with every single rep having a 3-count pause, and obviously a very, very slow negative. So I just kind of wanted to save you guys the torture of having to watch that full set. Those sets can get upwards of 3 to 4 minutes long. So but what you'll notice here is eventually, as soon as I finish this set and then I get into the second set, that I am still utilizing a peak contraction. It's not like I'm just throwing the peak contraction to the wayside, but you'll notice that it is nowhere near as extreme as what it is here on the paused rep set. So here we're just kind of getting into position. You are going to see a slow negative here. And then count how long these negatives are. Honestly, I have no idea, but they're pretty slow. Then you'll see the peak contraction here. It's there, but it's not anywhere near as long. So on this particular set here, I bumped up to 120 pounds, and this is the first time that I've hit 120 pounds. I don't know if you guys can kind of tell, but during this set, I'm kind of like moving my hands and my hips and my feet and everything back and forth. I feel like this was a 10-rep set, and I feel like the first 3 to 4 reps were really not that comfortable. I was kind of just trying to find my footing and trying to find my positioning and where I really wanted to get locked in. And it wasn't until rep 4 or 5 that I finally felt comfortable and I finally got locked in and then was able to grind out from there. But I feel like to an extent that's part and parcel of using a weight that you've never used before. Kind of the first time that you hit it, the execution can be a little sloppy. And I'm really not super concerned about it because I know that every time that I hit this weight from here on out, the form is just going to continue to get better and better. I just kind of wanted to point out, I don't know if any of you guys will ever experience that, but really on any exercise, from a compound exercise to a bicep curl, whenever I hit a new weight, sometimes, not every time, but sometimes it can just be a little shaky. just trying to get comfortable with it. But I try not to lose my cool. This was again on this particular set. I did this set with no music on. I was staying nice and calm, really just trying to stay very, very focused on what I'm doing and not trying to get too revved up with the music or anything, and let emotions like push my body further than it's comfortable. So that's kind of how my training has gone a good chunk lately, but particularly on this session, again, just because of dealing with the injury. And I guess that's another tip that I could give you guys is when you come in the gym, if you've got an area that's injured, when you're training that area, I really would not be trying to get all super hyped up and try to attack it. And you guys know what I'm talking about. When you come in the gym and you're feeling good and you're getting warmed up and you're ready to do, say, like a chest press or something, and you're literally thinking like, I'm going to throw this fucking thing through the ceiling. Like you feel amazing and you know that you're going to attack it. That is like the worst possible thing that you could be doing when you're getting injured. And so I try to stay as calm as I possibly can and as focused as I can. I try not to listen to any aggressive music. I try not to listen to any music at all, period. And if I do listen to music, it's very, very calm and soothing music. I'm really just trying to keep myself calm so that I don't get this crazy adrenaline rush, when the bass drops on my favorite song, and then that forces me or causes me to attack a rep that I shouldn't attack, which could potentially cause something to go ping, and that's obviously not what we want. So that could be another tip that I could throw in for you guys there is, obviously we go to the gym because we love to get aggressive and we love to turn it on and we love to go crazy and everything, but I think it's very important to understand that there's a time and a place to turn it on and to turn it off, and you also, as an athlete, need to be able to have the skill to be able to turn it on and off by choice, because there are just straight up going to be certain times where it is not in your best interest to turn it on, so to say, and get super aggressive. And then obviously there's going to be times where it is, and it's just kind of knowing where to push and knowing when to pull back. And this is something, don't want to get too too off on a side tangent here, but this is something that I really struggled with when I was a beginner lifter, and something that I see a lot of my younger beginner lifters get too caught up in is just not knowing when to pull back. And to an extent, it's not their fault, you know what I mean? They're young and they feel great and they feel invincible. And even me at 26, like I feel pretty good. I feel pretty decent. Obviously it's funny to say that as I'm filming a YouTube video about me working around a knee injury, but hopefully you, for the most part, you can comprehend that I feel pretty good. But I can remember how I felt when I was 21 when I started doing this, and I'm 26 now. So in that 5-year period, things have changed, and I can imagine in the next 5-year period, by the time that I'm 31, 32, then things will have changed again. So as much as I guess like to think that I'm still young and that I'm still learning, which I most definitely am, I also have, a good 4 to 5 years of experience in here in this game, which is not long by any means. I know a lot of people who have been doing this literally 3, 4, 5, 6 times that long, but I feel like what I've learned in that short period of time is something that I see get replicated a lot with a lot of the younger lifters that I work with. So that's a skill that I always struggled with when I was younger, especially with this style of training. This style of training is such high intensity and constantly pushing yourself to do things that you've never done before, that it really is kind of hard to know when to pull back and know when to push, especially for people that have an athletic background. As I mentioned, like I've been playing sports my whole life, baseball from literally as early as I can remember, and then obviously all the football time and everything there too. So for those of us who have gotten into the gym and we've gotten into bodybuilding, who have competitive aspirations, and whether that stems from previous athletic experience or not, I just feel that it's difficult for us to know when to do that. And an instance like this is a skill where it really is important to have that. So anyways, RDLs are up now. By this point, I've kind of completely glossed over the adductors and leg curls, but there really isn't tons to mention on the adductors or the leg curls. RDL is one of the bread and butter movements on this session, and at this point I'm just holding performance, but honestly at this point I'm totally fine with that because body weight is dropping and body fat levels are dropping as well. So as long as I'm holding the performance there, then I know that I am not getting any smaller. My days of progressing the RDL in a deficit are long gone. They've been long gone for a good month and a half, if not longer, and obviously they're not going to come back as my body weight continues to get lighter and smaller. So at this point, it's just a matter of maintaining the lift until I no longer can, and then when I no longer can, if I no longer can, ideally I'd be able to keep it in all the way to the show, but if I get to a point where I realize I just can't keep it into the show because of the recovery capabilities that it's causing, I'll swap it out with something else, and would probably be either a machine good morning exercise, something that's externally stabilized, because obviously the RDL is not, it's internally stabilized. So I could, now that I'm saying this out loud, I could move it into a Smith machine. The Smith machine would make it more externally braced, which would help as the body weight decreases. So I guess I could do that, or I could do like a machine good morning, or I could do a hyper extension. So I've got options there, but I'm going to try and keep the RDL in for as long as I can, as long as I'm able to at least maintain it, and as long as it's not posing an injury risk to me, we will keep that one in. At this point, the posterior chain work, adductors, hamstrings, calves, I guess calves are considered posterior chain, glutes, everything, is all done. So now we're going to get into the quad work, and this is where I'm starting to get conscious of the knee. Leg extensions are completely pain-free, and they were completely pain-free on the previous leg day, so that was, something that I expected. Literally on that first leg day, the pendulum squat day, the day where I discovered the knee injury, was I felt completely fine the entire workout, and then the last exercise of the day was the pendulum, and I get on the pendulum and it felt like shit. So up until this point, I had expected to be able to do leg extensions pain-free, and I was, and then at this point, it's time to get into the leg press. The one thing I want to mention right there is that you'll see that I did 7 warm-up sets. So I did just an absolute shitload of warm-ups. I did 1 plate, 2 plate, 3 plate, 4 plate, 5 plate, 6 plate, and 7 plate. And I was supposed to come in here and do 7 plates, and then maybe, again, I'd have to check my logbook, but I think it was very similar to the calf raise. It was like 7 plates per side, and then a 10 and a 2.5 on each side, or something like that. But after hitting the 7 plate warm-up, I just decided that I would rather decrease the weight and play it safe today, and so you'll notice that I dropped the weight to 6.5 plates, and I just took an 8-rep set, and this was pain-free. So from here on out, I will continue to hit 6.5 plates instead of the 7 plates and some change until the injury heals, and then when the injury heals, depending on how I feel, I may stick at this lighter rep range, or I may go back to hitting the 5s and the 6s. So real quick, I know this kind of popped out of nowhere. What you're seeing on the side is my physique update. This was taken post-training, so this is what I'm looking like at about 12 weeks out. I was about 176 pounds this morning. So hopefully I kind of gave you guys some good tips there on how you guys can work around injury. A couple things that come to mind: keep the music calm, stay nice and focused, do extra warm-ups. With the leg press, I did tons of extra warm-ups. Don't be afraid to lighten the weight and reset your form and everything too if needed. If you guys have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out, and as always, take care of yourselves.